One thing I firmly, absolutely believe will never be up for debate and never be controversial is the power of a great referral network. Typically, referred cases are your higher value cases, not always, but a large majority, right? Especially if you're educating your referral partners on the types of cases you specialize in. And if you have a team that is on your side and knows what we're looking for, that's where the magic is really going to happen in terms of referrals.
This is RVA Trial Lawyers, Virginia's trial lawyer podcast, hosted by Sharif Gray and Niall Abuzaki.
All right, we're back, RVA Trial Lawyers, and today we're lucky to have a friend, Erica Caviness, joining us out of Atlanta. Erica and I met a few years ago. I was early on in trying to kind of double down on building my brand, I guess if you want to use those terms, as a trial lawyer. And I had met Erica largely because I saw a lot of the branding work that she had been doing for a large trial firm. And Erica was also early on in her business as a law firm coaching and training specialist, and was kind enough to lend a helping hand and meet with me a few times to help me really kind of refine my vision and give me tangible, actionable things to do to help me get down that path. And Eric, I mean, as I've told you many times, we've met in person, we spoke on the phone, I don't know how many times at this point, but you were a great help then, and you really helped me kind of just solidify what I wanted to do as an attorney and double down on it and do things that work to advance.
Yeah.
That's right. Being intentional about trying to brand my vision of being a trial lawyer.
Yes.
So anyway, super excited that you decided to join us as a guest on the podcast.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And right now you're working as a law firm coaching and training specialist. You've got your own business, Thrive Concepts. And if my understanding is you've got three main areas that you're helping law firm owners with. What are those three areas?
Yes. And first of all, Sharif, thank you for sharing that experience. As soon as I talked to you that first time, I knew you had such a, powerful vision. You just needed to attach some strategy, intention, and get it on paper, And I've enjoyed getting to know you and watching you grow since then with your practice. So my absolute passion is helping others succeed and really achieve things that they previously thought were impossible. And I've really focused that on three things, as you mentioned: operations, leadership development, and referral generation within law firms. And those are my absolute passions. And I love being able to bring my experience in working, with and in those roles in the past. I love being able to bring that to coach and mentor others and help provide that accountability, that sometimes that's sometimes the missing piece that we all need, is that extra layer of accountability and that extra layer of inspiration to say, hey, you got this, and here's what we're going to do, and I'm going to hold you accountable to doing it.
That's right. And that accountability piece is so important, Erica, at least for me. I mean, our work lives are so deadline dependent, and there's always another email. There's always another task to do. Yeah. And so without that accountability measure, right? Like, I mean, it can be easy to get sucked into, as you said, the daily grind. Another thing that I think is really important about what you're doing is that you're able to go in. I mean, you work with a bunch of different lawyers from all over the country and business owners, right? And so you have the perspective of this works in this situation, this doesn't work, here are your options, all that. Whereas us in the law firm, right, we know one law firm and we don't really have much context for what else could be done, right? And so there's a lot of it, which is like, I don't know what I don't know. And so one of the benefits that you can bring, and we'll, before we get into kind of the three things, and I definitely want to focus, I know I'm super interested in learning more about the referral supercharger program that you offer. But before we get into that, I mean, not only have you spent a number of years working in the capacity as a coaching and training specialist, I mean, you also spent some time as working for a law firm coaching company, working in-house for a big trial firm. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were also a paralegal at one point too.
Yeah,
right?
back in the day, way back circa 2008, I was a paralegal and that's where I really, cut my teeth in the legal industry. And I took a long break to pursue coaching and training on the medical side, and then found my way back into legal. So it's been an amazing and a very blessed journey. And I'm just so grateful for everything along the way.
Now, Erica, when you were a paralegal, what type of work did you do?
So I was actually working in Social Security disability, and I was a paralegal in that space for 4 years, and just, really focusing on the client communication piece and operational efficiency piece. I feel like translates to any practice area. We should definitely make sure that clients are not going more than a certain number of days without being contacted and being communicated with, and really looking at your workflows in a strategic way, I find is so important no matter what practice area you're in. So being able to start on the Social Security disability side and then work now, with many practice areas, primarily PI, it's just been such a blessing, in being able to compound, experience and best practices to teach others and inspire others that, hey, if you're struggling right now, this is not the end. We can reverse engineer this, and we can find a new way to get this done a better way and serve the client in a better way too.
I imagine also, like, your time doing the coaching in the medical world, like, is probably helpful too. I mean, because I think a lot of us lawyers forget that we are a service business, right? Like, and we are a business first, right? I mean, it's somewhat humbling, but I have to remind myself that there is no such thing as a civil trial lawyer in the private practice if there is not a good business behind that trial lawyer.
Yes.
And so good business practices and foundations are really essential for law firms.
Absolutely. That's well said, Sharif. And my whole purpose in forming this company, and the reason I named it Thrive Concepts, is one thing my mom taught me, and it's actually in honor of her legacy. I lost her back in 2017, but the overwhelming lesson she taught me throughout my life was, and it stems from the Maya Angelou quote of, our mission should be to thrive, not just to survive and eke by, right? So I really liken that on the business front. In law school, you're not taught to run a thriving business. You're taught to practice law, right? Which is great. And that's what we want. We want you doing as attorneys and as firm owners. But we also have to look at this as a business that needs nurturing, right? And we want the business to thrive because that creates more freedom of time and money for the owners and the team members, right? It's creating a legacy long term. And without that business acumen and that accountability attached to that, as you're building your firm, you're going to be stifled. So we all need a third party to come in and help us, show us best practices and help hold us accountable along the way.
Yeah. And I imagine it also allows you to dedicate even more time to trial work, right? I mean, I'm always very impressed, and we're certainly a work in progress when it comes to trying more cases. I think it's a goal that most firms have, and ours especially is committed to. But you have to have good systems and solid principles and foundations in order to be able to try cases effectively time and time again. I mean, a lot goes into doing that. And so it's not easy, right? I mean, and so this idea that, oh, you can just be a lawyer and just be a really good lawyer and the business takes care of itself, I think is probably a falsehood, right?
Absolutely. Could not agree more. And, you said something very key here. We want everyone working in their strengths and their unique abilities, right? So some firm owners, they just want to focus on trial work, right? And they just want to litigate. Some firm owners just want to run the business and be a CEO, right? So it first starts with establishing clarity, just like when you and I sat down that first day, right? And established clarity of what your vision actually was, where you wanted to go, what roles you actually wanted to fulfill on a daily basis. What does your ideal day look like? It all starts there. And then we can then begin to build out, ideally long-term, with a leadership team long-term, which is another one of my passions in working with firms, as I shared earlier. We can then look at, okay, who's doing what? But ideally, when everyone's working in their unique abilities and their unique strengths, that's where the magic happens. And if we can get everyone there, we're going to be solid.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of us trial lawyers, we say, oh, we don't have time for the marketing, don't have time for the business stuff, but we still want those referrals, and gosh, we just do good work and the referrals come, right?
Yeah.
I have learned that if you're not willing to make yourself an option, and I say that like basically if you're not willing to market yourself, then I mean, yes, work can still come, but it's just not nearly as easy. And I have a good friend who told me years ago, he said, Sharif, like, if you think you provide a good service as a trial lawyer and you're not willing to like make yourself an option, basically put yourself out there so people can find you, then shame on you. So anyways, well, I want to dig into the referral program that you offer, because I know all lawyers, especially doing the work that we do, the plaintiff's personal injury stuff, I mean, a lot of our work is referrals, and a lot of our referrals are kind of happenstance, which I'm guessing there's probably a number of ways and tools and things that one can do to have more of a system to make referrals a more reliable pipeline.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And isn't it wild how controversial marketing as a whole it has become, especially in the PI space, in terms of, what do we do? Should we be on TV? Should we have billboards? Should we just, do digital? Should we just be referral and word of mouth based? Right. I feel like that's always going to be a controversial subject, and that's okay. Each firm we have to find, again, working with your unique strengths and abilities and what aligns with your core values. But one thing I firmly, absolutely believe will never be up for debate and never be controversial is the power of a great referral network. And typically referred cases are your higher value cases, not always, but a large majority, right? Especially if you're educating your referral partners on the types of cases that you specialize in. And if you have a team that is really also equipped in educating others, referral partners out in the community, especially, you have a team that's on your side and knows what we're looking for, that's where the magic is really going to happen in terms of referrals. So the first thing, when a firm owner tells me that they want more cases and specifically from referrals, the first question I ask is, great, I want this for you too. Who's in charge of that? How many times do you think I get a one solid name answer of who's in charge of bringing in referrals for the firm?
My guess is there's oftentimes it's like, oh, nobody's really in charge, right? It's like, the phone rings every once in a while, right? So, referrals in some respects, I think, and I'm guilty of all this, but it's almost like a passive type of case acquisition. I was about to use the word program, but that program sounds like it's intentional. It's not. But it's almost like you just wait for the message or email or phone call to come. But my impression talking to you, and I'm sure what we're going to learn about here, is that no, you can actually be proactive when it comes to having a referral program.
Yes. Couldn't have said it better. So there's nothing wrong with, being confident in your brand and relying on your reputation. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to grow your referrals, you've got to put some more muscle into it than that. So going back to the who's in charge of that, either no one specifically is the answer, or they say, oh, well, we're all in charge of that. We're all, expected to bring in referrals to the firm. That's the equivalent when everyone's in charge of something. That usually means no one is in charge of it. And that's not a malicious thing. It's just the nature of the beast, right? So I liken it to if we're out in a crowd and, God forbid there's emergency and someone screams, oh my God, call 911. Unless someone says, Sharif, call 911 right now and let me know when you've done it, right? Unless there's clear accountability and assignment there, we don't know if it's happening, right? So this is a role I just truly believe has to be fully owned, and that person has to eat, breathe, and sleep bringing in referrals to the firm and educate the rest of the team on how to support them as well. So in terms of a title, many firms this person will be hired as a director of business development, director of attorney relations, community relations or community ambassador, something of that nature, right? The title, I could care less about the title. I want to look at what are they actually doing and owning? How are they bringing in referrals? How are they spreading the word about who we are as a firm, as a brand? What types of cases do we specialize in? And really working the community, and even, nationwide, attending conferences. There's so many ways that we can double down and focus on this particular stream of new clients. And it really, I firmly believe, depending on the size of the firm, it could start off as a part-time role, but I firmly believe it should evolve into a full-time role as the firm grows to a certain point.
So you get that person in place. I mean, what are some of the first things you have them do?
The first thing, we need to get a lay of the land of the current data, right? So data equals decisions, and ideally strategic decisions, right? So we need to look at where have our referrals, our most valuable referrals, come from in the past. Ideally, let's go back 12 months, look at 12 months worth of data, and, let's identify our most intentional referral partners, right? Approximately how many referrals are they sending us every month? And again, there's a difference between, you can niche down into this marketing aspect, but the qualified leads versus unqualified leads. The most important thing, though, is we want more leads, right? We want more referred leads. It's intake, and I want to make this distinction. It's intake's role, the new client team, it's their role to convert, right? And to make that sale at the end of the day. But in terms of bringing in new referrals, we're looking at, the primary KPI, in my opinion, should be the number of referred leads overall. We don't have control. That person is not going to have control over the qualified aspect of the lead, but the more that they do educate referral partners and potential new referral sources on the types of cases that we handle and specialize in, the more qualified those leads should become over time.
So it sounds like step one is figure out what's working and probably double down on what is, right? From at least a referral.
Yes. Attached to what's working, double down on nurturing those existing relationships that you already have that have proven to be valuable referral sources in the past. Also make sure that, we want to always come from a place of how can we support you as well, right? So it's not, we want this to be a two-way street. And that, with some firms, there's always going to be a bit of an imbalance. That's, just the nature of certain practice areas and whether or not we can fee share, fee split. There's lots of logistics there to think about, but always coming from a place of, hey, we want to support you. How can we support you and your firm? And by default, over time, building those authentic relationships, it's got to be real. It's got to be authentic. It can't be transactional. Ultimately, this is business development. But I firmly believe you have to have a person who is not operating in such a way that it feels transactional with their hand out. What can you give me? It's really about giving and supporting to the other person and firm first. And then that's going to, pay dividends long-term when it's built authentically.
There's a letter that I got. Ben Glass is a friend, mentor. He has a great legal marketing program. And I remember a few years ago, I got the letter, the ultimate referral letter. The whole idea of the letter is to do exactly what you're talking about. It's, hey, law firm, what type of work do you want us to send you? And oh, by the way, this is what we do, right? And so I think the benefit, right, at least, or the hope is that when someone refers a case to us, I mean, my hope is that they know that the person they referred is in good hands. And I think that's one win. But if we can also return the favor, I think that's even better, right? And so where are people, or how about law firms in the personal injury space? Where are they looking for referrals? And I recognize it's probably a bad question because the answer is probably everywhere, right? But how does one say, all right, well, these are our targets. We want to target these types of law firms, or we want to, or we also want, and correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, but I imagine there's also referral programs or efforts that are targeted towards non-law firms. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. there's multiple streams, right? So you've got your attorney referral partners, right? In your network. And that can certainly be built. And you know, I have worked with a lot of firms that, you know, they were relying on one particular firm or even, you know, one solo practitioner to be their primary source of referrals. And, you know, that's, even if it's a long-term relationship or friendship, that's not necessarily a safe business bet, right? So I really recommend diversifying your referral sources, you know, in an authentic way. Of course, you're building authentic relationships in this process, but you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into relying into one specific referral source, even per practice area. You know, I worked with a firm who they had, you know, one reliable partner. They were PI, and then they had, you know, one criminal defense partner and one estate planning partner and one, you know, fill in the blank. But what happens if, for whatever reason, that relationship deteriorates? Maybe it's not malicious, it just happens over time. Or, you know, maybe the firm is no longer operating, maybe it's sold. A number of things could happen, right? So making sure you have more than one referral partner in each practice area is huge. That's just only attorney referral partners though, right? We've got clients and community partners as well. So this is a full spectrum. We have multiple streams of referral sources we need to look at.
And I know the answer to this, but can a non-lawyer develop these relationships? And I know, and the reason why I say I know the answer is because in some respects, I know you at one point had a role in-house where you helped develop those referral relationships. One of the issues that I think a lot of lawyers have, and I'm sure I'm guilty of it, maybe guiltier than most, is there's this feeling of like, well, I've got to do it. I've got to make the phone call. I need to go have the lunch, right? Like, is that, and I know that that's not required, right? But how does one empower the person they have in the seat to actually go in a meaningful way, develop those referral relationships with those other law firms or community partners?
That is a great question. So absolutely a non-lawyer, and I believe it should be a non-lawyer if possible, because that is freeing up the lawyers to actually litigate. And especially, you know, in a litigation focused firm, you want, again, going back to unique abilities, you want your attorneys working in their unique abilities. There are certainly some exceptions, and I've seen amazing attorney business development managers combine for sure. So I don't want to, you know, be polarizing here, but really the only thing a non-attorney person in this role can't do is negotiate fee splits, right? So as long as this person is well educated and, again, eats, breathes, and sleeps bringing in business to the firm, then we're in great shape. But relying on an attorney to do it and expecting that attorney to maintain a full caseload, maintain contact with their clients, you know, and, you know, go to trial all at the same time, that's going to be a tall order to do.
Absolutely. How do you empower that staff member, I guess, to have the confidence, right? To go out there to the other law firms and pitch, right? Why having this referral relationship makes sense for both sides.
Yes. And it starts in the recruiting process. So when I'm coaching clients to even look for this person, if it's not, you know, many times it comes from an in-house person already and they're promoted to this role, or it's a lateral move, whatever the case may be. It's someone who's been in the firm for a while and is very familiar with the firm and is already a walking ambassador, as we like to call those people. That's common, but many times we're hiring straight from a new pool of candidates that hasn't been part of the firm. And it's a situation where we have to train right out of the gate. What are the core values of the firm? What are the expectations of this role? I really love working with my clients to develop a role alignment, essentially a contract of what this role entails, what's expected, you know, what are the ultimate KPIs and measurables at the end of the day, and making sure right out of the gate this person is set up for success. And it's a lot of front-loaded effort when you're bringing in someone for this role. And even if you're moving someone in-house into this role who hasn't fulfilled this role, it's a lot of front-loaded effort to make sure they have that confidence and that make sure they're delivering the message exactly as you would as the firm owner, right? Because they're really an extension of you. They're an extension of your brand at the end of the day.
And how do you recommend that they actually go about making contact with these firms? And I'm sure there's no one silver bullet, right? But like, is it you show up and drop off a gift, or you ask for a meeting, or you email or cold call, or is it all of the above, right? And of the options, what's the most effective?
Great question. Yeah. So it depends, and I know that's such a vague answer, but this is what I will say. The first thing I have the person in that role do is I have them sit down with the firm owner/owners, and actually also the other associate attorneys, and I have them interview every attorney and get the lay of the land of any referral partners that they need to get specific information on to best fulfill their role, right? So, if I'm in this role for your firm and I sit down with you, and you might have a list of 20 referral partners, right, that you say, hey, I think this person would be best, we can best reach out to them via this method, right? Get good intel from the attorneys on the team before you start making contact. So all of those things you mentioned are great, handwritten notes, emails, visits, dropping off gifts. You want them to be intentional gifts, not just generic gifts. That's, I have a whole other spiel I can do on that. But get good intel, start with good data and intel on who's who, what's the best way. Some people might be off limits for whatever reason. Some people, you just never know. You've got to sit down and take the time to interview each attorney in the firm as if you're a person in that role, and make sure you're going about it strategically in the outreach method.
I imagine also that gives that person also some easy wins too, right? Because to me, it would be daunting if I started a new role and said, hey, you're not a lawyer, you haven't been with us for very long, and go to other law firms and get them to send us work, right? Like that sounds pretty freaking hard. But so maybe there's already kind of established or pseudo-established referral sources, then, and by starting with those, getting those easy wins, it probably gives that person the confidence to keep going. And I imagine, the person needs to be like proud of the firm, right? They have to know that this is a good product and be willing to sell it. And when I say sell, I hate that word sell. I also hate the word marketing, but it is what it is. But I guess really what I'm trying to communicate is like, listen, when you pick up the phone, call our law firm and refer somebody to us, not only if we can give you a referral fee, great, but more important than that, you're going to know that the person that you put in our hands is going to be taken care of. And I think in some respects, that's what matters most for people who are deciding whether to refer.
Yes, 100%. And it's the enthusiasm. It's the transferring that confidence of we are the best at what we do, and we'd be honored to serve any person that you know of that's in need of our services, right? And again, I'm largely speaking on the attorney referral partner side. Of course, in the community and with non-attorney referral partners, I feel like there's less angst because you don't have to worry about any certain pre-established relationships with other attorneys, right? You have more freedom. So walking in blindly and dropping off, gifts and handwritten notes and things of that nature, just, good old fashioned networking and authentic relationship building. You can easily do that more so in the community. And then on the client side, many firms that I work with have also developed client relations, teams who specialize on the client referral side, right? And they work hand in hand with the person who specializes more on the attorney referral side. So this can go many different directions. But the first step is certainly getting a lay of the land of where we're at, of our most active referral sources, and then looking at how we nurture those relationships going forward and what are the right methods based on what's been done in the past and any pre-existing relationships or intel that we can glean from within the firm already.
So I'm super biased, and I'm sure many of our listeners are the same, but trial lawyers, people who listen to this podcast, the majority of them either are trial lawyers, want to be trial lawyers, or at least like hearing our crazy stories.
Yeah.
Is that a benefit? Is being a trial lawyer, is that something that makes it easier to sell for purposes of developing these referral relationships?
I think, I firmly believe that if you are willing to go to war for your client, even when the odds are stacked against you, right? And you've already gone through hell and back. I firmly believe that is such a, a unique attribute and something that will absolutely set you apart from the crowd. If I were in a situation where I had to refer someone, I want to know that they're in the hands of someone who's not going to take the first available or best offer, right? And they're not going to just take the easy way out, and they are going to go to war for me or my loved one. So that's a long-winded answer to say, yes, I do think that that makes a difference. And I think that has to be in your marketing and your branding messaging. That person, the person who is owning referral generation within your firm has to speak that language, absolutely has to speak that language and deliver it in such a way that there's no question in that, the other party's mind that they will be in good hands. Any referral they send will be in great hands.
Well, that makes me feel good. And so the trial work stuff, right? So but no,
Yeah.
I'm obviously super biased, and I think it's at least a distinguishing factor. I mean, in some respects, I wish it wasn't. I wish every personal injury lawyer was a trial lawyer, right? Or in the true sense of what that actually means. But that's just not the case, right? There's a lot of law firms that don't litigate, and maybe there is a place for them, but I do think it is an advantage to being a trial firm. And my hope is that when another attorney is thinking about who are they going to refer this client to, my hope is that they're thinking about, well, when the case gets tough, is this firm going to go the distance? And hopefully the answer is yes.
Yes, absolutely. And that reminds me of a marketing campaign I helped launch when I was in this role. And, one of the core values that our firm had was that we try cases to juries. And, in speaking to our referral partners, the theme was, you can know that if the defense is not willing to compensate, the client on what we know that they deserve, then we'll see them inside the courtroom. And I use that as a sort of a battle cry in our marketing campaign towards our referral partners to make sure that they knew, hey, we're going to battle if we need to. And it was really effective. I got some great feedback on that. And it was an honor to watch, in the process of launching that and, growing our referral network. It was such an honor to also see our attorneys get some amazing results, multi-million dollar verdicts for our clients in that process. So we, really knowing you can walk the talk rather, and practice what you preach. That's worth its weight in gold in this.
That's awesome. So, I mean, it sounded like it was wildly effective, that marketing campaign.
It was. And we focused on different core values, and, core values apply to the entire firm, right? Internally, externally, clients, referral partners, everyone, right? But how you speak about those and how you communicate those is really important depending on the result you want to achieve, right? And your target audience. So turning it towards your referral sources, whether that's referring attorneys, the community clients, it's really important to tweak that verbiage a bit to make sure the audience feels you're speaking directly to them and you've got their back. That's what's most important.
Well, and if you're going to do that type of campaign, right, you also have to have the goods, right? Like you can't not try cases. You can't just say it. And it's funny.
Absolutely.
Actually,
yeah.
I wrote something on LinkedIn this morning. So we have a case coming up in December, and it's a significant case. It's a railing that the city was maintaining at their main library branch, and it was so
that's right.
rusted.
That's where he fell, right? He fell 7 feet.
It was so rusted to the point where, like, adjacent railings, you could actually see through the base of the railing. And so our client leaned on the railing, and then railing gives way. He falls 7 feet, permanently disfigured in a couple areas, and it's just not good, right? No. And I have been like this tension lately where it's like, well, they haven't made an offer, but are they going to make an offer? And is the case going to settle? And I woke up this morning and I was like, you know what? Why am I even entertaining this? I mean, obviously, if the client's on board and the client's willing to go the distance and trusts us to do so, then let me get settlement and throw it away, right? Like, what is the risk? I mean, Is there risk? Of course. Is it my money at the end of the day? No, it's the client's money. So the client needs to be informed. Right now, there's no offer, so it's an easy decision. But the concern is going to be, well, when the money starts coming, are we as lawyers going to come up with 100 reasons to try and settle the thing? Or are we going to say, no, this is a significant case. The negligence here was, I mean, arguably not negligence. It was recklessness, if not wanton disregard. I mean, the fact that those steel railings had eroded to the point where you could see through the base in an area where that hundreds of thousands of people have used and go to every year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the main library of a city, right? Like it could be anybody who could have gotten hurt. And so
thank God it was only one person thus far, right?
Well, it was actually two, and we represent the other guy as well, and he was also badly hurt. Yeah, only two people. But what's crazy, and it's kind of, for those who aren't trial lawyers, you're always shocked when you hear this stuff, but the city hasn't made an offer, and they haven't admitted liability. During their depositions, they've argued that it's our guy's fault for not having seen the thing. They've argued that railings aren't meant to be leaned on, that they're just guides, and so you shouldn't lean on the thing. Like, they've argued that they didn't even know about the issue, even though there was a report in 2015 that in no uncertain terms says that these are issues and they need to be fixed. And so it's really amazing. So I have kind of come to accept, at least I hope, as of today, that I'm not going to think about settlement anymore. Like, that we're trying this case and they're going to have to convince us otherwise. Right. And I tell that story because it's one thing I know to say, oh, I'm a trial lawyer, and to beat the chest, and to say, oh, we'll try your cases and da. But it's another thing to actually do it. And so I think if a firm is going to take that approach and do a marketing campaign like that, I mean, you got to be willing to put yourself out there, because you have to do it. I mean, it's something that you can easily, verify, right? Does this firm actually try cases? And I'm pretty sure that, at least in our local area, if you were to ask, hey, does that firm actually try cases, most local attorneys know the answer, and there aren't that many, right? And so but anyways, I just rambled on and on about my own insecurities of calling myself a trial lawyer, but still having those thoughts of, well, is the case going to settle, and should it settle, and maybe. But anyways, so I don't know. It's cool though, Erica, to see that while you do work with a number of different practice areas, in watching you over the years, my impression is that you've gotten to work with a lot of very good trial firms. And so my guess is that you are drawn to that kind of mentality. Am I right?
I really am. And it just, it has worked out that way, I believe, for a reason. And I think, in speaking the same language and having similar core values, both personally and professionally as business owners, it just, we seem to align, and that has been the case for sure in terms of most of the clients I work with. So there's definitely something to be said of that grit, right? That grit where you're not giving up and you're not going to fold. And I'm so blessed, and I love seeing firms build out their vision for increasing their referral network. And also, I had a firm that I worked with that actually developed their own in-house trial school as well. And that was a huge selling point for their referral partners, right? So, the sky's the limit with this stream of new clients in particular, because you just never know who's going to need your expertise and your specialty, right? Even if you're a PI trial firm, and you're in a super saturated market with a million other PI firms, right? They're not necessarily all your competitors, because they don't handle the same types of cases you handle, and they're not necessarily litigating those cases, right? So having more of a creative mindset versus a competitive mindset in this, I think, is crucial. But absolutely, I'm thrilled to work with any firm who wants to focus on this area of the business, but certainly someone who is dedicated to fighting for their clients tooth and nail, as I like to say, right? That's definitely a great fit for me.
I also wonder, from the referral standpoint, there's probably less competition, compared to like every firm fighting for that number one spot on Google or that LFA or let's have an arms race with Google reviews to see who ranks highest on the local map pack, right? So like, whereas the referrals is like, I mean, if you have the track record of success to demonstrate and earn those referrals, you're probably separating yourself. I mean, there aren't many law firms, at least in our area, who operate largely based on referrals, whereas there are a ton of law firms that you can find on Google.
Yes. And you want to pay healthy attention to every marketing stream that you have and make sure every investment you're making, there's a ROI there. But this, going back to when we started the conversation, the referral subject, I truly believe will never die. It's something that no one, I believe, will ever dispute, that the more referrals we have, the better shape we will be in, right? And the more impact we'll be able to make in clients' lives. And especially those tend to be, if they're personal referrals and personal relationships are at stake, what a way to make an impact and, building even better legacy with those.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of referred cases and we're very grateful for it. But when I get a case that's referred to me, I mean, there's an extra level of attention that I want to give it. Not to say, I mean, it's like, no, we're getting a good result, not just because this client deserves it, but so-and-so referred it to me and I respect them and I feel grateful that they thought of me as a referral compared to everybody else. So we're going the distance. We're going to do whatever we can to get the best and possible result. So it's, I know there, some firms are like, we don't like paying referral fees, but man, I the way that I look at referral fees, it's like, it's a privilege to pay it. Cause I mean, I wouldn't have gotten the work one without it.
Well said.
And two, it meant that referring attorney trusted our firm. And like, that's huge.
Yeah. And think about, you've got to think about that sphere of influence from that one referral has their own sphere of influence, right? So you get a great result, or even let's say worst case scenario, even if you didn't get a great result, but you delivered, the ultimate client experience and you treated that person like, beyond family, like royalty, right? With that client experience, think about their sphere of influence. I've seen time and time again, even if God forbid you lose their case, right? And it went to trial and you lost their case, God forbid, they still continue to send you referrals because of the way you treated them from start to finish and the way that you handled their case and that experience from day one that they reached out. So never forget, spheres of influence are so far reaching and compounding with everyone we meet.
Absolutely. Well, Erica, this has been a lot of fun, but before I let you go, I ask this question a lot of our guests, and I typically ask it to the lawyers. I'm like, hey, and the question goes along the lines of, well, if you could go back to when you graduated law school, what would you tell your younger self, right? I'm interested in asking you that same question. Now, granted, it's not law school, but if you could go back in time to when you started getting into the legal coaching, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to stay curious. Always stay curious. Don't settle for what has always been done. Don't settle for, the dreaded, that's just the way we do it answer. Stay curious and always be looking for ways. And this applies to, me, this applies to you, anyone listening to this. If you are in the client service industry in any capacity, stay curious. Always be looking for new and better ways to make an impact and serve those who trust you in a better way and to provide more value. That's what I tell myself.
Well, thanks, Erica. Erica, well, I'm sure I'll run into you again at a conference. For those who have not already heard or seen Erica before, I mean, you're at a bunch of them. So, I mean, you're speaking all over the place, which is really, really cool. So we'll have to get you up in Virginia at some point.
Yeah.
And you travel, you're working with firms all over the country. I mean, even though you're based in Atlanta, right?
Yes. I love performing the on-site workshops, and, my programs are customized. So such a blessing to be able to connect with firms all over the country and then see them at conferences here and there as well. Thank you so much, Sharif, for having me on and for the work that you do.
Thanks, Erica. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of RVA Trial Lawyers, Virginia's trial lawyer podcast. For more episodes, check out rvatriallawyers.com.